Now going to introduce to the stage Detective Superintendent Tara McGovern, who is going to come up from the Metropolitan Police and going to share with you her personal journey, which I know that you will find fascinating and moving. So can I have a round of applause for Tara, please? Thank you.
Let me just own how I feel right now. Slightly nervous. I looked at the agenda, I looked at who was up today, and then I saw that it was going to be me too, and I just thought, oh my goodness. But I'm here and I want to talk to you about my past year, and I want to talk to you about what that means for resilience in the workplace. I think, apart from Mandy, I'm the only Met officer here. Is that right? Which gives me total scope. I transferred into the Met from Hampshire 4 years ago. So there's lots of things about the Met that you and I probably agree with. But it's a great place to work. So let me start by asking you to think about New Year's Eve just gone. So Monday the 31st of December 2018, 7:45 in the evening. I want you to think about what you were doing. So some of you might have been at home with friends and family. Some of you might have been working. Some of you might have been out at a party. I remember exactly where I was. I was sat in the GP surgery discussing a lump I'd found in my breast 2 days before. Within 10 days, that lump was confirmed as breast cancer, and my journey for 2019 began. Breast cancer was not convenient. 3 years before I had joined the Met, my sole ambition when I joined the Met was to go to the Serious Organised Crime Command, which was 7, it's now Central Specialist Crime. I wanted to go and run kidnaps in London. I wanted to be an SIO. I wanted to work in serious organised crime. That's what I wanted to do, and that's why I left Hampshire. And I'd finally got the job, and then I get breast cancer. I also, when I joined the Met, set up a network, the Network of Women. Coming from Hampshire, is there any Hampshire officers here? No. There's Rachel, another ex-Hampshire. There's a great group called Inspire, which is a network for women. I know in Kent they have KNOW, which is the Kent Network of Women, and I know other work that goes on in Staffordshire and other police forces. Excuse me, just a quick health warning. I'm still being treated, so my nose runs. I don't know why, it's a side effect, so you'll have to excuse me when I quit. But there was nothing going on in the Met, so I set up this network of women. So 12 days before I found the lump, I launched the Network of Women in the Met. So the timing was awful. I had a plan, and it wasn't going to plan. I had breast cancer. So I got straight into treatment, and I started with chemotherapy. The surgeon who saw me was really surprised I found my lump. And the reason he was really surprised is because it was tiny, it was really small. But I have been checking my breasts since my early 20s, every month, religiously. Because when I was 11 years old, my mother died of breast cancer. She was 42. I don't have hereditary genes that would lead to me getting breast cancer. I don't have a lifestyle that suits the sort of risk factors. But what I know is it's a random disease and it can impact on anybody. And it's also not a disease that solely impacts on women post-menopause. I wasn't under any screening, and I also was not having any mammograms. So I would religiously check my breasts every month. And on this particular morning, Saturday the 29th, I got up, I made a cup of tea, I checked my breasts, I found the lump. I knew exactly, even though I assumed can I find a position where I won't feel it anymore and it's gone? it was there, and I knew. So I went into treatment, and I started talking to my friends about breast cancer. And what I realised is nobody else was checking themselves. All my friends weren't checking themselves regularly. Some of my friends who were old enough for mammograms weren't going because it was inconvenient, or they were worried it was going to hurt, or, they'll get round to it, but they never got round to it. And I really considered about what could I do to raise awareness of breast cancer and that it can impact on anyone. And it's the most treatable cancer there is, but the key is to find it as early as possible. So I was watching television, I was having chemotherapy, and I got up one morning, daytime television, one of the benefits of being off sick with cancer, and the Lorraine show came on, and they were doing a campaign called Change and Check, putting stickers up into changing rooms in shops. So I thought this would be brilliant for policing. The idea is as you're changing, you look, and it reminds you to check your breasts for signs of breast cancer. So I thought, well, our staff come in and change for work, a lot of them. So I contacted the show and said, would you be willing to support policing in terms of raising awareness of breast cancer? And the response was brilliant, really good. So March, we launched the Met, because obviously I'm a Met officer. We launched the campaign in the Met with a blog. We had the TV show there, and we filmed it. And we basically put stickers all across the organisation, and it's had a really good response from men and women. Men contacting me about how they've gone home and had conversations with family members, as well as women who had put off checking themselves, checked and then found themselves and had to go and present themselves to doctors to get checked out. It's 55,000 new cases of breast cancer every year in the UK in women, and about 500 in men every year. It's the biggest disease that will impact on women. Therefore, it is the biggest disease that will impact on our women in our organisations. And that's why I'm so passionate about pushing this agenda. And whilst I was doing all of this, I thought we need to push it out further. I'd come from Hampshire, and I believe I work for the Met. I am one of the Met officers that understands that policing goes on outside the M25. So I went to the Police Superintendents Association, and with them we've launched this campaign nationwide. These are the stickers that are going up. I don't know if any of you have seen any of them. It is going up, I'm assured, by some of your colleagues. Yeah. And if you haven't and you want to run the campaign in your force, we now have a toolkit that you can use for your media department and access to stickers that you can put up around. I'm just going to play you a video. This video was part of our launch on this campaign. And this, two apologies. One, it's very Met-centric, and the second, I was in the middle of chemo and I could barely string a sentence together. You'll see what I mean. I sort of got propped up during filming and then sat down again when the cameras were off. But this sort of explains the campaign. I'm Tara McGovern, Detective Superintendent in the Met Police. I have breast cancer. I found out in January this year. When I found the lump, I went straight to the doctors. The surgeon was really surprised I found it. I'm totally treatable. The treatment means that minimal surgery, because I've really responded well, because it's been found so early. The point of the Change and Check campaign is to remind men and women across the organisation to check on a regular basis your body, and if you find something you don't, it's alien to you or you don't like the feel of, then get yourself to the GP straight away. When I saw the Change and Check campaign on ITV, I contacted the programme straight away because I knew it worked really well in the Met. And they've been so brilliant in their support. They've given us 10,000 stickers. They're across all the buildings in the Met. And then to launch our campaign, they've come here, they've done live filming. I've had Helen, who's the executive producer, who's also going through breast cancer, Lorraine, Dr. Hilary. So for me, it was absolutely brilliant. And we all was kicked off the campaign with a really positive message. Check yourself regularly. And if you find something you don't like, get it checked out. I'm really not telling you this to say, look at me, you know. I'm telling you this because I feel so passionate about it. I'm really lucky. I've got breast cancer. Well, I don't actually anymore. The chemo nuked it. I then had surgery, and it's minimal surgery. I've got a small scar in my armpit, and that's about the extent of my surgery. And I'm currently having radiotherapy because it's a bit belt and braces with treatments. I was there this morning, and I'll be back there tomorrow morning. But I feel very, very lucky, and it's because I found it so early. And that's why I'm trying to really push this message, because there will be other women. And since actually my campaign started, 2 women have come forward in the Met, and they are starting that journey. But they were prompted to check their breasts because of the campaign. Now, that's my job done. I think I can put my feet up. But no, now you've got to go and do it in your forces. So while I was doing the campaign, lots of women contacted me to provide me with support. Women who had been through breast cancer that were in the organisation. And I suddenly realised, and this goes back to the well-being piece, this is the disease that's going to impact on women the most in our organisation, probably. And we need to really make sure we support these women. So I created a support group called Breastmates, and this has been operating in the Met since April. And we get together and we have a chat about life. They provide support around how to manage side effects. And we also buddy up with newly diagnosed people within the organisation. We help line managers about how they might want to operate around the person that they're line managing. Some of the nuances of breast cancer. A lot of women, these women are incredible. They're strong, they're resilient, they're courageous. And all they want to do is come back to work and get back to normal and start doing the job that they love. And we need to help them with that. Some of them have been shunted into an early menopause. Some of them are struggling with issues around fertility. Some of them are struggling around managing some really powerful drugs, really intensive surgery, etc. And there are a lot of things that we can do to make life easy. So that's what we do with line managers. And we also support partners of those going through it, or carers, and give them tips about managing children, etc., etc. So I set up Breastmates, and this is some of my breastmates from the Met, and we've launched that nationally as well. And I'm hoping that some of you will recognise that in your own forces. I know West Mids are doing a brilliant job with that right now, and other forces are also following suit. And there are other things, you know, we include other people around ovarian and other types of cancers. But these are things that, you know, there are things that we talk about that you probably, you know, some people might find quite uncomfortable to listen to. And some women don't want to talk about some of the issues around some of our male colleagues. So that's why we did it. So when I think about this and this past year, and I'll be back at work at the end of the year, and I can't wait. I love my job. I got that job. It took me 3 years to get that job. I am going back to that job. With bells on. I'm head of modern slavery and criminal exploitation, and I'm watching London with the County Lines piece, which is my area. Just, you know, every now and then putting in a phone call, a welcomed phone call apparently. probably not. But I'm really looking forward to going back to work. And I really thought about resilience in terms of what I've gone through this past year and what I used to get me through it and what I've learned from all of this. And I just was going to share some of that with you. Some of it will be relevant to you and some of it won't be. And some of it you will disagree with, so you can find me later and tell me it's okay. I take feedback and you'll see that in a sec. So I was always thinking when I was setting my goals, I was in Hampshire, I knew I wanted to be a chief officer. I know that's what I want to end up doing. Yes, I'm one of those ambitious women. And proud. But I wanted to be a chief officer, and I've always set sort of how am I going to get myself there? And it's not easy, you know that, it's tough. You set a plan, you put yourself forward for something and you fail. It took me 3 times to get that job in serious organised crime in the Met. When I first went there, I had the skills. I was a kidnap SIO, I was PIP 3 SIO, and I had to keep applying because they didn't know who I was, not this time, maybe next time, blah, blah. So, but it was fine. I set my goals and I really thought about how am I going to get there. And when I was thinking about being a chief officer, I was setting, all right, I was in Hampshire, I think what will be good for me because I'm a detective and I worked mostly in crime, is if I went to a Metropolitan Police Service where I could learn more about how to manage that on a bigger scale than we had in Hampshire. I worked out what my obstacles were. Transferring into the Met, I'm a carrot, in I come. They do call us that. I worked out how I would do that, and I worked out what I was going to need. And I think these are really, really important things to do. You set your goals, you understand how you're going to get there, and then you prepare for when it doesn't go to plan. And that's where your resilience kicks in. So when I'm thinking about habits of resilient people, never ever giving up. So you think about J.K. Rowling's. Was it 12 publishers she went to before she got someone to publish Harry Potter? And I think she got 4,000 for that. And now she's gone on. Oprah Winfrey, her first TV job, she was kicked out, she was sacked. She didn't fit the face of TV presenting. So look where she's got. And some of the things is take risks. I was doing really well in Hampshire and I went to the Met. I went with no legend, nobody knew who I was, my reputation, who is she? When I spoke to somebody from the homicide team about what chance of me getting over there, well, we don't really know you. No, but, I've got the skills. Yeah, well, we don't really know you. So I took a lot of risks. And I've made more mistakes, but I learn from them and I own up to them. And when I've been leading teams in London and I haven't quite got it right, or I've been at a community meeting where I worked in Lewisham, where it's quite a challenging environment. Some of my language on one occasion was clumsy, and did I learn when they were literally on their feet shouting at me, and I had to go and repair that damage. I learn, but that's what you do. You take risks, you put yourself out there, and then you learn from them. And I embrace vulnerability. I don't mind telling you I'm really nervous right now. I don't mind telling you that I've made loads of mistakes. I don't mind telling you that once a week I probably, something doesn't quite go to plan, and I have to resolve that. And one of the key things around this is emotional intelligence. When it does go wrong, you have to control yourself. I had to learn to control myself. So when people do stuff and you think, oh my God, that pushes every button I have, and I'm pretty infuriated by it. You have to just make like Swan, and not show that, and also understand that in other people. Perfection. I've never been perfect. I never seek to achieve perfection. It's unrealistic. It builds stress. It builds stress in you. It builds stress in the people that you lead. If you are knocking back stuff because there's a bit in there where the grammar's not quite right or the spelling's not quite right, that's really disingenuous to your people. So perfection, I do the best I can to get the message across. Sometimes it's a bit rough and ready. Sometimes it's more larder than Rolls Royce, but actually often, most times, it does the job. I understand the biggest success comes from failures, how you learn. When you fail a board for promotion, it's not about, it's not fair, it's not about, they don't like me, it's not about that. What it's about is, okay, how am I going to pass it next time? What am I going to do? Go and seek my feedback. I'm going to pick myself up, I'm going to dust myself off, and I'm going to get on with it. I was told by Andy Marsh, Chief Constable in Hampshire, a few years ago, that the way he measures some of his leaders is how they deal with disappointment. And I think that's a really wise thing, and I've always thought that. What does it say about you when you're really disappointed? And that often is your emotional intelligence kicking in just to... And that also, it's sometimes embarrassing. You've put yourself up for something. You might have been temporary doing that job for a long time, and you don't get it. Well, that's quite embarrassing. You know, you've got to slink into work the next day. No, just go in. That's it, failure. What did you learn from that? Probably humility. Develop a strong self-esteem. Okay, I'll be honest. I fake that a lot. Fake it till you feel it. I use that in almost every part of my life, which my ex-husband was delighted that I announced to everybody. Yeah, we won't go there. Understand your strengths and weaknesses. I'm sure that you will hear this over the next 2 days, and you will all know this. You know, I work on my strengths, and I try and make sure my weaknesses are covered, often working with putting people around me who can help me with that. I work on my weaknesses, but I work really hard on my strengths. I know what my strengths are. And I'm not ashamed ever to ask for help. And I think often we don't do that because it's seen as a sign of weakness, but it's really important. The most resilient people you'll ever meet adapt to change, and we are in a perpetual change in policing now, and we have to just adapt to change because our staff don't like it, and we have to be seen to be in control and managing it. And for me, my change, so I'm supposed to be thinking about doing my chief supers the cycle, which is December for the Met, but I'm not going to, obviously. And so I've adapted. My plan is kind of skewed a bit, but I've adapted. I've done some campaign work. I've been on Lorraine TV. I've been on Loose Women. So I've adapted, and I'll be back next time. I'm considering what I'm going to do moving forward and whether my plan was right, but I'll adapt and I'll move on, and I'll be a chief super within 2 years. Hold me to that. And I fundamentally believe that. I absolutely believe that. I believe that I will get that, and I will do it. And if I haven't made it in 2 years, I'll work out why, and then I'll do it in 3. But I'll adapt. One of the things that, and I'm very grateful for you asking me to speak today, because I really believe this campaign is going to save people's lives. So I really would like you to consider, when you go back to your force, whether or not you will run this campaign. It's very little work. We've done all the work for you in the Met, and we'll share anything with you, but it's really important. But more important than that is all of you think about this, check and change, go to your rooms this evening beforehand. I'll be asking you at dinner, did you? And make sure that you do this on a regular basis, because you'll be saving lives, and one of those could be you. Thank you.
So I think we've got time for some questions. We've got a microphone. Okay. Please raise your hands if you'd want to ask a question.
Thank you. Just in relation to your breast cancer, I was speaking to an ex-colleague who's been diagnosed, and she puts her illness down to wearing body armour. Have you heard anything or any research into that?
No, but actually, interestingly, I've been speaking to Mandy about that, because how great a question is that? Because Mandy does a lot of work with uniform, and you've been working with scientists, and you've been working around what that looks like in terms of the safety for women. I don't think there is any evidence to suggest that. I've heard a number of reasons that people get breast cancer that would be linked to policing. Outside of that, also shift work, I've heard. There is no evidence. I think they don't know. At the moment, there's no evidence to support that whatsoever. And there's a lot of work that goes on with that. And that's one of the first things I checked. But that's a great question. I mean, I've been told I don't have a hereditary gene for breast cancer, but my mother got breast cancer in her late 30s. Now, I don't really believe in those kind of coincidences. So for me, they don't know yet. So.
Thank you very much, Liz Warner, West Mercia. Say 40 of us all harassing you at dinner time. What's the best way of us getting hold of that campaign material?
We can circulate my email, which I will then, I will get you to send me how many stickers you want and an address that you want them sent to, and your media departments can access the toolkit through a thing called AppCom, which they all have access to, and that will have all on there. There'll be there's my blogs, so some of the stories around how cancer treatment goes. Also, some stuff from surgeons, how to check yourself, both for men and women. We've got on there, so it's all ready for you to go. But if you how can we circulate my email to people? Yeah, we'll circulate my email, and then just email me about the stickers and where you want them to go.
We'll get something put on the BAWP website as well.
That'd be brilliant. Thanks, Ronnie.
That link.
Yeah, that's the best question, because that means you're going to do it in West Mercia. You're not on my list. You have no.
2 weeks. Oh, sorry. At the moment, this month, we're having every week. We've got a female officer who is giving their own story about breast cancer.
Yeah.
That's quite a powerful thing then to suddenly see on the front page of your internet a picture of a colleague telling their personal story. Yeah. And next month we're talking about men's mental health. So this will be really good timing to piggyback what we're doing this month about breast cancer awareness.
Because the Breast Cancer Awareness Month this month.
Course,
I was asked by some guys at work when was I going to do something about prostate cancer or testicular cancer. So I was like, I think we're going to run a check your lemons, but I don't think I'll be leading that.
Tara, I'll ask you a question if you don't mind.
No.
You've shared your really personal story, which has been amazing. I know we met before and we talked about that. I know you obviously talked a lot about resilience. But what is it do you think that's kept you kind of going at your lowest moments for the sort of last 12 months?
When I first got diagnosed, the first thing I thought of was, have you got the right name on that piece of paper, doctor? No. Is I've absolutely believed and believe now that it was not a death sentence for me. I thought, okay, I've got to go through some pretty crappy treatment, but I've always believed that this was a minor detour, and that I have a job to go back to, I have a life to go back to, and I've maintained that. I've always kept that. And one of the things that my oncologist said to me at the end of my treatment, my chemo, is that as soon as I arrived and I'm talking, right, what's the plan, what are we doing, what do I need to do, can I eat something that's going to help with this, is there supplements I can take to help me with the side effects of chemo, how do I keep my hair? And as soon as she saw my attitude, she said to me afterwards, we knew that you were going to be absolutely fine. Positive attitude is half the battle. You just have to really, really believe, fundamentally believe. And I'm now at the stage where, you know, it's October. I wish the treatment was over, but it isn't. But I'm soon going to be there. I'm so excited about the rest of my life. That's how I feel. I feel, let me at it, you know, and woe betide you if you don't pass me on my next board, because I'm like, I am so, there's nothing, I don't fear anything, including now talking to you lot. But in all seriousness, it's positive mind. Is that it?
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Big round. Thank you. Well, I'm really not sure how anyone can follow that, in all fairness. Some of the things you said, absolute admiration. Actually, one of the things that struck me is the fact that you were talking about everybody else being brave. Everybody else's journey, everyone else courageous, everyone else brave. And then really, this is not about me today, but actually, you know, I think everybody here would say that going through what you've been through takes a tremendous amount of courage, and I can't begin to imagine the fact that you managed to keep a positive attitude through it is something that I think many people would struggle with. So I think the courage and bravery that goes with that is fantastic. And I know how nervous you were before you got up here as well, which is almost